All right, thanks y'all for joining me for this episode of the Hip Hop Humboldt podcast. This time I got somebody who's well known in Humboldt County hip hop. I'm talking to iloveyoujxsh. What's up?
How's it going, y'all?
Good,
Man, I'm
good.
happy to be here.
Hey, I'm really blessed to have you. Like I was telling you before we started, there's a lot of people around here that have had a lot of good things to say about you.
Blessed.
Yeah, hey man, you blessed the community. It sounds like so. I'm definitely hoping that we can get into what you've done. Maybe even start off with some of like your musical influences, and then take it into how that impacted your music, and what the jump off looked like, and anything else, of course, you want to get into. So
Definitely. Yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
dope, dope.
Yeah. So I feel like it all should start from the beginning, for sure. So I started doing different musical outlets in school with orchestra and jazz band and all of that. And then once I hit high school, I met a good friend of mine, ilyJxsh, in art class. And
Shout out ilyJxsh.
Shout out ilyJxsh. And so I was talking to him, and then I found out he had music out, and that was mind blowing to me because I didn't realize that you could just record yourself and have it out there like that on a platform like SoundCloud or something. And so I hung out with him. We started becoming good friends, and he showed me how to use Ableton. And so he showed me how to produce and like record yourself and all of this stuff, and kind of put me on. And I was like, dang, you could just do it in your bedroom. And I was so amazed by that. And so him and I created a group called For the Masses in high school, and that was our first like kickoff dual group between us two. And then some other people joined, like a good friend of ours, Seb, and a few other people, and it was just so cool because we all got to perform together. And we would set up performances at this old venue. They kind of relocated onto the Arcata Plaza, but it's called Outer Space.
Oh yeah. Shout out Outer Space.
Shout out Outer Space, dude.
Yeah.
There's a lady there who helped us out tremendously, who just believed in us and wanted us to up on the stage and performing for the community. And it was amazing because ilyJxsh and I grew such a great bond through just sitting in his basement and making music all day. We'd get off school, go to his house, and we'd just make music. And it was so amazing. And so being able to perform that early work that we weren't necessarily, we were confident in at the time, and now we look at it and we're like, dang, there's some things we probably could have done differently with the sound, once we got better. But yeah, just being able to get a start on that and performing at Outer Space Arcade was so amazing.
That's dope. That's definitely been a venue that's helped a lot of artists kind of get their start and get their feet under them with performing.
Definitely, yeah. And so I had done a lot of performances through school, through mainly just sitting behind a guitar, sitting behind drums, never like vocalizing. And so that was something completely new to me, where I had to express myself in a new way and even input physical movements into like getting the crowd more tuned in to what we were doing. And so that was like a new step for me, where I was brand new to it, confused almost, but excited to try it. And so they invited us to do Lost Coast Fest, which was really cool because we got to perform around like crazy different artists, pretty big ones like the Screaming Females. They're a big punk band, I think, out of the East Coast. And so it's totally different from hip hop, but that's what I loved about Outer Space, is that the lineups would be so different, which kind of helped us out later on in our most recent performances, kind of in the near past, which was really cool just because of the variety of sound.
Yeah. Now you guys at that time, like you said, you guys were being billed as For the Masses.
Yes.
Okay.
So we were at For the Masses, and yeah, we were more of a group than our individual names being put on the bill. And then we would, I think, during Lost Coast Fest, that's when we started kind of realizing, oh, we should try new things, because I wasn't the most, so I started out trying to become like a rapper. And I was like, I don't really like my voice, how it sounds when I rap. It didn't sound like genuine for me. So I was like, but I love producing because I've always been like musically inspired. So I was like, I'm gonna start production. And so I would produce for ilyJxsh and then other friends, but I didn't have the best setup. And so I'd have to try to figure out ways to work around that, So I would building my own self up, trying to making the most trash beats over and over and over until I started kind of realizing how to use different knobs and different stuff, you know, to really make it sound more professional. And let's see, and yeah, like I think the first legit beat I made was with ilyJxsh, with a reggae artist named Luton Faya.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
real.
yeah. And so Luton Faya had a show in Humboldt over at the Mateel Community Center, and ilyJxsh's mom was like the manager for them for I believe, the California side of the tour.
Oh,
And so he
dope.
stayed with ilyJxsh, and ilyJxsh was like, "Oh man, I want this song with Luton Faya so bad." And I was like, "He's in your living room, you know what I mean? All we got to do is ask." And so it was so cool because right down below the living room was a basement where we made all the music. And so Luton Faya and his whole band came downstairs, and I got to co-produce with all of them. This guy named Ernie, who was the best guy ever. He was so like loud and bombastic and was just so excited to make the music. And so he was helping me out a lot and gave some game to me to get better at different producing styles and how to work with. He said, you know, one thing I always remember is that you always have to have a variety with your production. Is that once you start limiting yourself to one sound, that's when you can get stagnant. And so always trying to work with new sounds. So reggae was definitely a new step for me, that's for sure. And so I was really excited to work with a bigger artist and to work with my best friend side and side, you know, and make something new like that. And that was called From Jamaica to Humboldt by ilyJxsh and Luton Faya.
Dope. Make sure y'all check that. Where can they find you at?
I would say, I think it, dude, honestly, I think it got taken down.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not even on anymore. It might be on YouTube, might be on SoundCloud, but I think I just took it down.
Okay. If you know, you know at
If
this
you know,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We got the if you got the CDs from the old school, high school days, then
See, that's
you
what's
know.
up. Okay, so talk about I don't mean to hop around, but definitely talk about that at some point if y'all were doing the CD game and everything.
So that was honestly that was more of ilyJxsh's thing. So that was his first CD, and so after that, I don't think we made any CDs, but we got to travel with Luton Faya down to San Francisco at one point, and ilyJxsh and I are like 16 years old, and Luton Faya is performing at this club, and he's like, "We're gonna get you in to perform up on stage with us," and so we're in like San Francisco, and we're like 16 years old at this random club, and he's like snuck us into the back so we could go into the front row so we could be right there. And during the performance, towards like the late middle end-ish, you know, part of it, Ernie, the guitarist, came down. He's like, "Hey man, I don't know if you're gonna be able to perform." He's like, "You guys are young. I don't know if the club promoter will like it at all, but we're gonna try." And so ilyJxsh and I are just sitting there, you know, at the San Francisco club, like, "Fuck, dude! Like, we just drove all this way. I hope we can do it." And then Luton Fire just randomly like announces our names, like, "For the masses up to the stage," and we got to perform with them and have a whole band behind us, and that was so amazing, man.
That's dope.
Yeah, I was so excited. That was so cool. And so during that performance, I got like stage struck and forgot my lyrics.
Oh shit.
So I just started freestyling, and I was like, I wanted to become like more into the singing style rather than rapping. So I just started like singing like melodic rapping to the crowd. And they were all fucking with it. I don't know if they were drunk or if it was actually good, but they were liking it. And I was like, all right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. So I was so excited. And yeah, it was just such a great time overall, I'd say.
That's super dope. About what year was that? You said you were 16. About what year?
Yeah, I want to say that was our like junior year, so I want to say like 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, like 2017, 2018.
Dope.
Yeah,
And then since then, you guys have been just, continuing to make music.
definitely. Yeah, and so kind of further on from that, I started wanting to focus on producing specifically because I was like, if I could, because I've always wanted to make my own music, but my production style wasn't where I wanted it to be. And so I was like, if I could just produce and produce and produce for other people and be able to put myself in positions where I could get better without having to make my own music, putting my music on pause, then I felt like I would be in a better spot to make my own music later on. And so that's where I kind of got into more of the production game and started helping other people around me, whether they're first starting out, you know what I mean, or had been in the musical industry for a while. And so I was like, okay, that's a great way to get it going, you know. And
Yeah,
so
it's definitely a lane that lets you collaborate with a lot of people, you know.
definitely, and I felt like that's a big reason why I made such an impact in just my community in terms of just being able to help people who just got started. You know what I mean? And not really having that judgment there of like, oh, you're not good enough and all that stuff. It was all open arms for anybody that I would love to just, help. And I told him, I'm like, I'm not the best at this moment, but I'm gonna do my best to make this sound as good as possible.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so that was amazing. I got to work with a pretty underground artist right now. Her name is Lux. I don't know if she's still going by that, but her name is Lux, and she's fire. And I made this song called Swimming with her, and that was, I feel like, my first production style that I felt very confident in, where everything just sounded good. Her vocals, I was able to mix very well, and it was just, that's why I was like, okay, this is how we do this now.
Dope.
Yeah, so that was an amazing time for that, I'd say.
Heck yeah. About what year was that?
That was like right when I moved out, so that was probably like 2019, I want to say 2019, like right when I graduated.
Okay.
And so I got to work with her, and I got to, because I had my own spot at that point, and so I got to work with a bunch of artists and kind of made my bedroom into like my own little studio. My bed in the corner, I'd be like, just come over. That's how it's always been, just bedroom cozy studio. And yeah, and I've always treated studio sessions, I like to say, like therapy sessions. I never want people, because especially when you're a vocalist, coming to a new person's house or like just in a new environment, you're gonna feel all, kind of choked up or a little nervous, and so you're not as comfortable as if you're just singing into whatever you got at your house, in your bedroom. So I always like to start it off by just talking to them and kind of seeing where they're at in their life, what they want to make, and how they want it to sound, and even throughout the process of making it, checking in with them, being like, does this sound good to you? Do you want it to go a different direction? And making sure it's what they want. Because I feel like a lot of the times with production nowadays, especially if people take it off YouTube, that's the beat. But I feel like what I've always loved to do is make beats with people in person, because you can really effectively get the emotion that they want to portray in it. And even especially with me as a producer, I feel like a lot of producers, at least with me, it's like that's your voice in the song, so you have to add your voice in it in terms of musical instruments or whatever sounds you're using. And so that was always like a cool aspect to do that I loved about producing. And that set me up for being able to produce for myself, making my own music and stuff. And so I got to explore different genres like indie rock, and I got to explore genres with hip hop and melodic rap within my own stuff, and working with Juice Engineer at Juicebox Studios.
Yeah, shout out to Juice.
And so he helped me out a lot with even just getting my vocals sounding better. And he would show me how to mix beats in certain ways and stuff like that. And he would help me out a lot. Just me being at his studio, just looking at looking at what he's doing and watching different things that he's using, it helped me out a lot. And so when I made an EP of mine called Take Your Time, that's out on all platforms under iloveyoujxsh. And that was just amazing, because I felt like that was like a solidified point where I felt confident in putting out music on all platforms, because I never had done it before. I just done it on like SoundCloud, because I was like, this sounds good, but it doesn't sound great. And to me, that was like a point where I was like, this sounds fucking like I would listen to this, And so I shout out to him for that.
Dope.
Yeah.
So real quick, I hate to keep asking like what year was that, but I'm just trying to always lock down the timeline.
Yeah, no, that was pretty recent. I'd say that was like, I want to say, what year is it now? 2023. I want to say that's 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like last summer. So that was pretty recent, and like now I'm like at that point, where it's like that's where I need music to sound. So always having a great engineer and always kind of giving yourself time to make that sort of music, rather than rushing anything, being like, oh, I need to put music out. It's like giving yourself that time and patience to be like, okay, focus on sound, focus on quality, always quality over quantity. Because if you keep putting out music that people don't like, then it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yep.
And so that was like a big thing that I found out just working with him. And working with that whole crew. So that was cool.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, so that was like 2022.
Dope. Yeah, Juice is such a pro when he's working. I mean, I seen him at work. You know what I mean? He's working hard. And I mean, like, the quality of the output is anybody who's heard, whether it's City Hippie, Rowdy, all the other artists. I mean, there's so many artists that he's mixed, for at this point. You know what I'm saying? So, he's done a lot of music that y'all have listened to, might not even know that's Juice behind the scenes. So
Definitely. And I would say the same for engineered by, he goes by, or his name is Jaden Moorhead, and he's ilyJxsh's engineer, and he's insane. He only does it for homies, really, just kind of, he's free for the homies, and he just loves it because he loves music. And so he has a very similar work ethic, I'd say, to Juice, because I think he like apprenticed under Juice for a little bit and learned a lot from him along the way. And so his studio is insane in Trinidad, and he puts out such great output in the same work ethic, I would say, where you just put your head down and, people are talking, but you're still just doing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that's how I learned a lot from that too, in terms of producing, just having friends up in my room, smoking out and just being loud and rowdy, and I have to sit there like listening to all the little things and the beats to make sure that it sounds right, and just put my head down. Like, okay, I'll have fun in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
fighting through the adversity.
Yeah, I would say Forest Green and ilyJxsh could say a lot about that, of just terms of all them goofing around in my room, and I'm just sitting there with my head down, like, I gotta make this good for him.
Yeah, shout out to Forest Green.
Dude, that's my brother right there.
Yeah, he was just on the, depending on when y'all listen to this, Forest Green was the episode that just dropped, episode 34, so make sure y'all check it.
Oh, 420.
Yeah,
he deserved that.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly. Hell yeah.
Dude, yeah, no, it was, working with Forest Green was so amazing too, because him and I met working at a job, and at first I saw him, I was kind of like, who's this guy? And then he told me, he was like, yo, I heard you produce. And I was like, yeah, man. Like, you make music? And he'd only had like a couple of songs out that he like recorded on his iPhone. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. I was like, let's get you sounding better. And so I had like my microphone and everything, and so I had him come over, and we made I produced his EP, Borrowed Time. I think it's only on SoundCloud now. I don't know if he took that down or not. And that was like his first official EP, like kind of more of him coming into himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we worked on Room for Growth with Sam and ilyJxsh, and I got to produce all of that and record all of them. And that was amazing, because that was just such a fun project, where it was Sam, ilyJxsh, and Sam's brother Vincenzo and I were all just sitting in my room. Vincenzo's an amazing artist, tattoo artist out of Oakland, and he got to sit there while we're making the music, and he's painting the cover art. And so it was just all like a full collaborative experience, where we got to sit there, think about what we wanted to make it together, including the artwork, and just made it a whole collaborative experience.
That's sick.
Yeah, and that was like 2022, I'd say, 2021.
Okay.
And that was like pretty recent, it was just such an amazing collaborative experience. And yeah, man, like, even after the outer space days, I hadn't performed in so long, and I started meeting more and more people, like Ben and Payne. hit him up on Instagram, and I was like,
shout out Ben and Payne.
Shout out Ben and
the
Payne.
Cemetery Boys.
And the Cemetery Boys, man. And it was so cool, because it's so funny, dude. I like hit him up, and he like ghosted me for a long time. But to be fair, I sounded like a bot. I was like, hey man, I'm a producer out of Humboldt, love your music, like we should totally kick it, dude. And he's like, what the fuck is this? And so we finally met, and like we didn't get to work on too many tracks, but we just became such great friends, as I would say. We just became friends that were like just more or less having fun more than anything. And so that was amazing. He got to live with me for a little bit. He moved into the house, so we had a whole collaborative house and stuff, and that was sick. And
it's so dope when you get two creative minds collaborating like that. That's really dope things come out of that.
Definitely. And it was more or less just like pushing each other, because like me making music in one bedroom, him making music in the other, and I'm like hearing his 808s, I'm like, oh, I need to get my 808s sounding more intense, And so it was cool, just kind of like pushing ourselves to be better. And yeah, during that whole time, I got to when we were working on Borrowed Time with Forrest Green, he was shooting a music video for the song Reflections he had. And at that music video, I met this girl named Juliet, and she is insane, man. And so she's like, hey, like, I make music too. I'd love to, like, I need a producer. Like, I haven't been able to work with anybody since I've been in Humboldt. And I was like, dude, I'd love to work with you, you know? And so she came over, and I had never, like, fully heard her sound yet, you know? And so it was kind of brand new. And we made this song, Already Dead, which is, like, still my favorite song from her. And it was just crazy because that was, like, the first time we officially hung out, and we made, like, I'd say one of her top songs right now. And it's just so amazing. She, like, came into my room, and she's just screaming. She had, like, this voice where she'd meet you, she'd be like, hi, I'm Juliet. And then she'd just scream into the mic, and I was, like, startled. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, during that whole time, we just slowly all began, you know, meeting new people and kind of coming together. And then we started doing these shows at Rampart, and we would be putting on, like, these massive shows with, this kind of goes into what I was talking about with outer space, just adversity of sound. Because we all had different sound. It'd be like ilyJxsh, Forrest Green, Juliet, Ben and Payne, Not Louie, Shiny Me Spirit, Seb, or aka, I don't know if it still goes by this, Rapunzel Thug. And so we had, you know, all these various artists, and even Albert at one point, I think we just had so many people either just coming in or kind of popping in and out. We had a guy named Rex who's from LA who popped in at one point. And it was all just different sound, from hip hop to screamo rap or rock, or, you know, like melodic rap or any of that, hyper pop, you know. So we had so many different sounds, and that was so cool because I wasn't performing too much. I was mainly just the DJ. So I was just like, you know, I produced a lot of their tracks, so it felt really cool because I was just DJing, but still felt like performing because I was like, oh, I know, I produced that track.
Yeah.
I was like, y'all don't know it.
Yeah.
And so,
but DJing, let's not forget, DJing was the first pillar of hip hop.
Definitely.
Started there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So that was amazing for me to even experience because I was still part of the performance. I still got to be the hype man, talk to the crowd, but I still had my own little thing going on in the background of producing for people and stuff. And so it was just really amazing. Once I got Take Your Time Out, then I was able to start, you know, promoting and performing that at our shows, which was amazing. And say our best show at Rampart was on Halloween, I want to say like 2021, and like 500 people came. We were like unexpected. We were like
crazy.
It was crazy. We were like all like, yeah, we're gonna do another show at Rampart, and we like promoted it as much as we could, you know, and not expecting it much people to come because our shows before that was like slowly getting bigger, but it wasn't like it wasn't packed. You know what I mean? It was like there's still some space in there that could have been filled. Then that show came around. It was like people were packed inside, people were packed outside, and it was like, holy shit, you know, we just did that.
That's dope.
Yeah, man. And so that was such a crazy experience. And what was crazy about that is so when Ben moved in, you know, I got to hang out with Louie more, not Louie, because they were really good friends. And then Louie and I were like, oh shit, we performed together at Outer Space when we were both like 15 or 16 years old. And so we have this like whole lineup with like the old Cemetery Boys, whereas like Not Louie, Me Spirit, and Teenage Disaster, or Thorin Baker, and he's pretty big now. And then For the Masses, you know, I think City Hippie was on that lineup too. So it was like,
oh wow,
For the Masses, City Hippie, Cemetery Boys. And that was like our first like good show where we were like, oh shit, we got a good collaborative experience going on with local artists. And so
that was the one at the Rampart.
That was at Outer Space, probably
okay.
probably like 2018, 2017, like still in high school. And so that's when I first met Louie. And so later on, getting to perform with him again in like more of like a intimate setting where we had all of our own group, not under like a name or label, still under individual artist names, but being able to collaborate in that way and set up the show and everything together was just so sick. It was like full circle.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so it was really cool to work with everybody in that type of setting and stuff. And so that was such a blessed time, I'd say, where we all felt very confident in ourselves performing and being able to perform with to a bigger crowd and all of that. And so we started doing that more, and eventually Louis had this big TikTok following, right? And so before he got banned, and so Vice wanted to do a piece on Louis, and so Vice News was like, "Yeah, we want to do like an interview on you, and kind of video the show." And so we had always had rehearsals at my house, Ben and I's house, and so Ben and I like deep cleaned the fuck out of the house. I'm like, "Fuck, dude, Vice News is coming over. I can't be looking trashy, and set up this like magnificent tie-dye like DJ booth. And so,
Oh, sick.
dude, it was like sick. And so it was all cleaned up. And then we're like, fuck, we don't have a performance mic. And so I had to go get a performance mic from, I think, Juice, from Eli. And so, but Vice was like on their way and Louis was on their way. And so like I went and got the performance mic, came back and walked through the door. And this guy on like a swivel chair with his giant camera just pans over to the front door. And I'm like, what's up, guys?
Oh, they were there.
Yeah, I was like, shit, dude, Vice News is here in my fucking house now.
That's crazy.
Dude, it was crazy. I was like, this is like amazing, And it was amazing for Louis to be able to get that spotlight. And I was so proud of him, as a friend. And it was so amazing to just have the opportunity to have some of a little spotlight on the group too, for kind of what we were doing all as like a collaborative experience.
So a
collective, yeah, as a collective. And so it was just amazing to be a part of that. And so I think after that we kind of started slowing down on the Rampart shows, just because everybody was kind of needed to work on more music. It was kind of going a different route, And so since then we haven't performed too much, I don't think, dude. It's kind of been crazy.
Well, COVID hit at some point there.
Yeah.
Slowed everybody down.
Down, dude. Yeah. So a lot of those shows, unfortunately, were during COVID. Like Halloween COVID, that show was packed, but it was still like nearing the end of it. But it's still the right move, I bet. But
hey, we have to get out there at some point.
We had to, dude.
Yeah.
So we were
talking Halloween last year?
Yeah. No,
okay.
A year before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it was like a while ago, still nearing the end of it. But
we were over the hump at that point, right?
Yeah, we were over the hump, So it was like, it was still bad, but it was still like, okay, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
They're still renting it out. So we were like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and we got to perform at District 7 once. And that was a crazy show because that was like all of our collective again. We had Weirdo on the set list. And so that was sick from City Hippie. And so we just had a big variety of music in this small store, which felt so intimate and close to the fans. Like it was like our DJ booth, the performer, and then the fans and everybody, the attendees, like right in front of us. And some of them were good friends of ours, just already knew the music. So it was just everybody screaming the lyrics to each song, and it was just so like mind blowing to me. Just getting to that point of like, even though it's still a small show, still our friends, it's like being able to have a support like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was so amazing.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and so I felt like that was such an amazing way to, again, just meet new people and put myself out there and in the production realm and being able to perform a little bit to put myself more back into the artistry realm as well, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it had been so long since I performed. And so I was like, this is an amazing opportunity. You might as well take advantage of it,
Heck yeah. I mean, really any chance, that you get to perform, just to even practice performing and being in front of people.
Exactly.
It's not easy, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations, it's like the more you do it, the better you're going to get. The more you're going to realize like, oh, it's just, you don't have to stare everybody in their eyes or overthink everything, you know what I mean? You just kind of, you're there to promote your music, to put yourself out there. They're going to see you for 30 minutes to an hour and then you're done. So what are you going to give them in that 30 minutes to an hour to make them remember you?
Mm-hmm.
So you really got to kind of let it all go and just allow the music to take over you and to just present that in a way that you want to in your own expressive way. And I feel like that's the best thing for artists to do is like, you know, even though, because I remember during the outer space shows, like when iJxsh and I were first performing, you know, there's times where we'd have literally 3 people in the room and it's just iJxsh and I performing. And it would be pretty awkward, you know, if we're just trying to promote our music, get ourselves out there for the first time. And it's like those little things working your way up like that, it's like it really sets you up to where you can be a better performer, be a better musician and artist, and kind of make you think about what you're creating. Because a lot of the times, you know, you'll make music that feels amazing to you, but might not speak to other people. And that's okay. Keep making that music, you know what I mean? It's always good to make different kinds of music that will speak to a crowd when you're performing live to make them really get into it. If you want to move a crowd, make music to move a crowd. You know, and so that was like an amazing thing to learn too, just as a producer and as an artist, just performing to smaller crowds and working our way up.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was just crazy time, I'd say then, going from 3 people to 500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. That's some growth right there.
That's some growth. Man.
Hey, well, I know that there's other artists around here that you've worked with. You want to talk about any other ones?
Yeah, so let's see. I would say Lux was a person that I first started working with when I was like first starting to produce. And that was really cool. And I got to work, made a couple of songs for her. And then I made a lot for iJxsh, a lot for Forrest Green, who is in Oakland, but he moved to Humboldt for a little bit. Man, I just kind of worked all over. I worked with this guy named Little Getty, who's from out of the area. He was going here for college. Worked with a lady named Sky. She goes by Love Her Boy or Cowboy Daddy.
Okay.
Shout out her.
Dope.
And Juliet. And so I just got to work with a bunch of different styles. I would say I can't even remember all the people off the top of my head right now. But just a lot of people in the community that it was just great to meet on a whim and then be able to put myself out there in that way. I say a lot of the times I would keep my circle kind of tight in terms of who I would work with, because eventually I got to the point where as a producer, it's like I found what I liked and how I liked to work. And some people, it was, you know, it got difficult to a point where it was like, okay, I really want to work with you, but it's hard for me to make the sound that you want to put in because I don't feel like an attachment to that type of thing. So I had to really kind of look into what I liked and put myself in a position that I was still passionate about what I was doing. Because the biggest thing as an artist, you always want to keep that passion there, you know, so you're not running yourself dry for other people's, you know, big ups or you know, growth, validation. Yeah. And so, yeah, just kind of making that choice to limit who I worked with and putting myself in positions that I felt confident in. Yes, I can do that and feel passionate about it.
That's really dope, and I think it's important for folks to think about this in Humboldt County. Producers, and not to just say like producers are a resource, but producers and the music that they create is a resource that is, there's not a ton of producers in Humboldt County, you know, so when you have a producer that knows a lot of people, you're going to have a lot of incoming people like, hey, we want to do work with you, you know what I'm saying? And for you to be able to decide like, okay, I want to focus on my sound, make sure that it's good for me, you know, like I really think that that's important to say. That's not easy to do when you got a bunch of people that are wanting to work with you, I'm sure.
Definitely, you know, and you feel kind of bad at times saying no, because whether it's a good friend or not, you know, it's like you want to help people put that sound out there. And especially as a producer, if you have equipment to record people or to produce something for them, it's like, of course they want to work with you if they don't have the equipment. You know, especially that's a big thing with engineers. It's like having a good engineer, it's like you're going to pay a hefty price because they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? And so it's the same thing with producing.
Keep going, brother. I'm going to close this window just to help us against that real quick.
Definitely. Yeah, and I would say kind kind of putting yourself in that position to say no and to know what you like, and even having the opportunities of you putting yourself out there so much that you can finally meet new people, maybe other producers, and you can put other people on to new producers. That doesn't necessarily have to be you. Because maybe if I make one sound, but I know a guy that makes a different sound who works better for you, maybe you two will have a better connection to make something that'll hit that spot for you. But, I think a lot of the times as artists, it's like you sacrifice a lot of time, you sacrifice a lot of money. I've never charged anybody for a beat this whole time. You know what I mean? I've always done it because I loved it. And so that was a big thing of why I said no, is because I knew I wasn't getting paid. So I said, okay, if I'm not getting paid or anything, it's like I'm not gonna spend all this time putting up work into something while you're gone that I'm not necessarily interested in. And so I think being confident in what you like and being confident in working with people that you can successfully make something is a big thing. It's finding those people that you like to work with.
Yeah. And in an area where there's a lot of talent in Humboldt County, it's kind of nice because then you kind of really get to decide on that. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be different pockets of people with those different sounds. You know what I'm saying? It helps you grow too. As you figure out what your sound is, work with other people, and that's going to enhance your sound. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Definitely.
And I feel like that was a big thing that I noticed working with Juliet. I had never made like trap rock type of thing. You know what I mean? It was like hard 808s. Distorted guitar, like random, little sounds that we had to add. I had never done anything like that, but I'd grown up listening to rock music and all of that. And so I was like, I have the musical knowledge to do it. Like, let's just try it. And then we ended up making some amazing music. And I was like, just experimenting. And a lot of the times, even if you're not working with somebody in that moment, but you have free time to produce whatever you want, try a new sound. Try something you've never done before while you're by yourself, just so you can figure out how to do that if anybody else asks you, hey, I want to be in that style. You're like, oh, dude, I got this experience under my belt now. It's just a lot of the times just, I'd say, at least for me, just sitting in my bedroom, just trying new sounds, trying out anything I could that felt different, even if I didn't necessarily like it, but I knew that it was like something to learn. It's only going to be like a little bit of time until you get really good at it, and then you could kind of hide it away as like a secret power to pull out later on. Like, yeah, I know how to make this style of music,
That's it. Yep. Now, I feel you exactly. Just at least on my own experience as I would say a hobbyist level producer. I'm trying to produce more and more for my friends and stuff. But I feel like I've been primarily producing hip hop for like 6-7 years. And at some point, I branched off because I'm like, let me just try something different, and started producing just a little bit of EDM. Yeah. And I was kind of shocked because I was like, wow, like I was tripping because like it's a lot easier to produce EDM. And I'm not saying that is any shade to EDM producers. I'm just saying producing hip hop is, to me at least, it was more difficult than producing EDM.
Yeah.
So maybe that's more just like, hey, this is more the lane. You know what I'm saying? And then I've tailored it more to like, I'm more of a lo-fi producer.
Yeah.
Every now and then, recently, I stepped off into doing some dub, like straight up reggae dub, and I can do that pretty decent. So, like you said, it's a little bit of a superpower that you got under your belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can just pull it out, and just kind of whenever you need it, whoever you're working with. And I'd say very similar to me. That's how I started too. Once I started really being like, okay, I'm going to become a producer. I was like starting just EDM, sitting in my bedroom because I was like, finding all these samples off Splice, and I was like, oh, okay, let's just try making some easy stuff that I can work with, adding like samples that were already made just to kind of get used to like what it's like to, because I knew how to structure a song in terms of like intro, chorus, verse, all bridge, all of that, And so I would do that with these samples, and then I tried being an EDM DJ at Outer Space, and that was a show where I had like 3 people there. And I was just playing beats I made. It was the most awkward thing I've ever done. I just sat there, didn't talk, just press play.
How did it come off though?
It came off pretty fun. I mean, I got pretty lit, so it kind of made it better, a little tipsy, and then everybody was kind of vibing like, okay, but having a smaller crowd, it's like difficult to work with. And so that's when I was like, okay, I should probably work with some artists with some different styles, you know. And then I tried working on some indie music because I've always been very interested in band-oriented sound. I feel like it just makes everything sound so full and sound so natural. And so I made this indie EP called Synkwits on my SoundCloud, and I was like just kind of messing around. You know, I had my guitar, I had my bass, and then I was using little drum samples and stuff to have a natural sound. I had this thing, it was like a guitar bow, so it would mess with the electrical frequencies, so you could make these really beautiful orchestral sounds with your guitar. And so I would kind of mess around with new random alternative sounds to just kind of, again, put that under my belt as a superpower, just in case if I work, especially with Sky or Loverboy, you know, she made a lot of indie music. So when I would make music with her, that's the main genre that I would work with her on is indie music. So I'd bounce around from trap rock, hip hop, indie music, reggae, trying different things to just get better overall for the passion.
That's dope.
Yeah, and so I feel like, you know, it takes a lot of time to get yourself into that position to feel confident in making something that you used to not feel confident in. But just taking that time to work on yourself as an artist, as a producer, and still holding that passion in it, you know, and just making it better and better each time, finding new tricks, tutorials, anything you can to be better.
That's it.
Yeah.
There was a dude at the Fat Bowl Cypher. Shout out to Fat Bowl Cypher real quick. The last Fat Bowl Cypher on Friday, he was talking Sequoia Falk. Shout out Shady Manila Records. He was talking about YouTube University, man. He's like, hey, I'm not going to spend all this money. You know, he was just in the rhyme, but you know, that's where the information is. Why go figure out how to fix your car and pay all this hundreds of dollars? Go on YouTube. You know, the information is out there.
Every information that you need is out there on the internet, and you can find it. That's for sure. I mean, even just going to a college for a little bit before I dropped out, it's like a lot of my classes were online because of COVID, and it's like, you know, they're sending us articles that were online. It's like, why am I going to college right now if I could just get it? If I could just go and look up the article, you know what I mean? And so it's like, whatever you're interested in, you can find it. And so being that I was interested in music, I was like, I need to get better. If I don't know what to do, so what am I going to do? I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look up how to make compressors hit well. I'm going to make sure how to make 808s hit well, or any drums, you know, how low and high things need to be in the song to sound more professional. And so I feel like Room for Growth, that EP, was such a big jump for me because I made a large EP, basically an album for Forest Green and Nigel, and I got to work with all the production, all the vocalists. You know, I was their producer and engineer. So it was sick because I got to really dive into new terrain in terms of making everything sound professional with what I had. And you don't need a lot to make anything sound professional, as long as you just kind of figure out how to use what you got.
That's it.
Definitely. And so, you know, if anybody out there has little to work with, you don't need a major studio. Have 2 small monitors, a laptop, and some, let's say, whatever stock, you know, equipment you have on their DAW, or whatever you need to get. You know, just, you don't need much.
Yeah. I know people, myself included, I know people that, you know, buy a bunch of packs all the time, you know what I'm saying? And now I've got, I mean, you know, just, you know, over probably like 200 or more different packs, and, you know, so many packs and this and that. And, you know, just you use what you got. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to keep on buying all these packs. That's, you know, making some of these, you know, dudes rich out there.
Yeah. No, that's how I felt. I'm like buying all these bundle packs and I barely know how to use some of them. And I'm like, dude, why am I even doing this? Using up so much computer space. It's like, you don't need it a lot of times. So, sometimes you just got to look up. Again, just kind of educate yourself on what professional producers in the community right now who are actually, you know, in the industry for a long time, what are they using to make that? And a lot of the times you'd be surprised, it'd be analog stuff, you know, stuff that you can't even have on a computer. It'd be actual physical equipment that you need to make stuff sound good, you know, like guitar racks or anything. to make stuff sound more professional and natural.
Mm-hmm.
Because the biggest thing I feel like I noticed with packs is that if you're using too many effects, then you're drowning out the natural bump to it.
Mm-hmm.
All that bump gets compressed and it loses its emotion, which that's the biggest thing for me is when I listen to music, I try to listen for that emotion, whether it's from the beat, whether it's from the artist, whatever it is. And I feel like, you don't need a lot to weigh that down, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The littler the better.
Yep.
That's for sure.
That's it. Overproduction is a real issue, and people definitely do that out there. And then you got a big mess, and you started with something that might have been dope under there.
Yeah, and that's happened to me a lot. I've made some amazing music with friends, and the what is that, like the particular side of me, I was like, it could be better. And then I go to mess with them, like, oh, it could be better. Oops, messed it up. You know what I mean? It's just becomes slowly worse the more you try to mess with it. And so that was something I had to learn. I was like, okay, if it sounds good, give it like a couple of days to kind of give your ears a rest so you can give it a listen with fresh ears. And that's another big thing, whether it's overproduction or overhearing it. Because when you're sitting in the studio for hours working on something, things start to blend in, and so you don't get the same result at the end as you did at the beginning. And so that's something I learned a lot along the way, I'd say. And so, yeah, man, it's crazy just seeing other people in the community, like artists, vocal artists, and other producers just working their way up throughout the years, I'd say. Just from outer space, from people that I've met there, and other people around the community, in the hip-hop community, just working their way up. Like even just seeing Juice. I remember the first time I recorded with Juice was in his bedroom. And he was that engineer for me where I just kind of was like, damn, this sounds fire, it's the same setup. And so, you don't need a big space or anything. You just have to work with what you got.
That's it. That's it. Hey, I always like to talk about the quick story of Anderson .Pac, who said that he recorded Malibu on, some Apple earbuds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing with Larry June. That's why I respect him, recording out the trunk. Yep. It's like, you don't need a lot. As long as you're passionate about it, that's what you want, then you can get it. And, that's still the same for me. I'm still in my bedroom making music that I want. But it's been delayed right now because I've been on a move. Yeah, I'm on my way to Ventura now.
That's what's up.
Yeah, dude. I'm excited. So I'll be down in Southern California, hopefully being able to meet some new artists down there and kind of solidifying myself in the SoCal scene of production and potentially DJing and artistry, and just kind of getting my name out there in a new area away from Humboldt.
Yeah, that's dope. That's how it goes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's really the way to expand is you got to leave the area and get other people exposed. And I hope it goes well for you, man, because and when it does go well for you, don't forget about the Humboldt homies.
Oh, never, dude. This is my love, dude. All here. Dude, yeah. Growing up in Humboldt, it's created such an impact because originally I was born in Reading and then moved here in elementary school. So I always say I grew up in Humboldt because that's where I really kind of found myself, found people that I really love and love to work with, you know what I mean? And so this is always home for me. And I'm excited to put myself in a new professional environment to be able to find new people and kind of learn new things, maybe find new music sounds that, again, I could work on and get better at. Because that's the amazing thing about the world is that there's, no matter where you go, there's always different sound there that you're going to have to get better, whether it's East Coast rap compared to West Coast rap. It's always going to be different sounds. And so I feel like that's one big thing that I've noticed because some of my biggest influences are like Kirk Knight and Eric the Architect as producers, and they're East Coast producers. So
shout out Beast Coast.
Shout out Beast Coast, dude. Shout out Flatbush. And so, even just working with people here, I noticed me listening to that style of hip hop, a lot of my production style shined in that, whether it was through the drums or through the sounds, and trying to use a lot of East Coast sound. Just because it hit more home for me for some reason, even though I'm on the West Coast.
And you got to do what feels right with you.
Definitely. Yes, sir. Dude, yeah. So moving down to Ventura on Sunday, the 30th, coming up soon. So I'll be down there working with new artists. Hopefully be working with an artist named Dead in Paris, who lives down in LA. He's from Humboldt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's a producer right now he's signed under Big Head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's a good friend of mine. So hopefully being able to see him and work with him, Juliet and Rex, some other people that got to work with us here in Humboldt, perform with us, be able to see them and work with them a little bit more.
Oh, they're down there.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're down there
okay.
in LA. So hopefully getting to work with everybody down there, re-solidifying that relationship down on the SoCal side. So I'm very excited.
That's dope.
Yeah, man.
I love to see that growth right there.
Right? Yeah, and a lot of the times I feel like with Humboldt, it's like, it's so easy to get stuck in here. Because, like, for me, for a while, I was working with so many people, and then towards the end of our performing, Rampart kind of slowed down. So I felt a little stagnant, producing wise, working with artists, trying to find new people to work with, working for myself, even, you know what I mean? I felt odd. So if you're feeling stagnant, give yourself a break. Go explore the world and experience yourself, experience the world, so you don't have to put that pressure and affect your passion. And so even now, I haven't produced a song in like 3 months, and I'm itching. I'm itching to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the last song I did was I guess it was a couple months ago. I didn't produce it, but I got to vocalize on it. It was with Forrest Green and Weirdo, and it was called it was like The Precarious something. And so that's going to be up on his new EP, so I'm hella excited.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. And so, The Precarious Hurdle. That's
Okay.
what it's called. So I'm very excited to hear that on his new EP. It's out now, all platforms. And so keep it coming. Keep it coming, Forrest Green.
Yeah, for real. Shout out to Forrest Green.
Dude, shout out. So yeah, man. New travels. Always try to put yourself in new positions so you can really grow within yourself and within your artistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think that you gave right there some of the bars I was gonna say. If you were to give some more advice to people that are coming up, because you've talked about a pretty dope come up. You know what I mean? Hey, having a 500 plus turnout at the Rampart, that's not easy.
No.
You know what I'm saying? That's really dope right there. So if you had, there's some, let's say 16 to 19-year-old right now coming up, looking at you, that have listened to your music, that are listening to this podcast right now, and you had some advice for them in the music community, what to do, like, what would you tell them?
Keep your mental health strong. Nothing's going to come out if you're not working on yourself. That's the biggest thing is, being alive is so wild, and that you can always get caught up in different situations, whether it's mentally or physically. And the best thing you can do is keep your head straight, focused on what you want, focus on your love, focus on your passions, focus on your brain, your heart, focus on anything that you need, focus on your friends that care about you, your family, whatever you got, and just keep yourself straight, because that's going to be the thing that's going to put you in the good position. Because I think with a lot of people that I have seen, get big, it's like if you're not full within yourself and you get put in situations financially that you weren't prepared for example, like a label loan. When people get paid out from labels, all it is a loan. They're expecting that back. So it's like when you get put into a bad money situation, you know what to do. If you're full within yourself, then you'll know the decision to make. But if you're not and you're just kind of getting stepped over, it's not going to make your artistry, your passion last much longer. And so the biggest thing I could say is just work on yourself, work on your mental health, and stay away from drugs.
That's dope right there.
Don't kill yourself.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
It's easy nowadays. Like suicide is seeming like it's just happening more and more each year. You know what I mean? The percentages just seem to go up. So
Definitely.
I think that mental health is a really overlooked thing. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Definitely. I mean, that was a big thing that helped me because even when ilyJxsh and I first met, I was homeless in high school with my family in Humboldt. So we were either living in a truck or living in a motel, and that was before I had any music gear, and ilyJxsh was there, a good friend of mine, to put me into the music scene. And so that was cool. So even when I was homeless, not feeling the best, going through weird high school growth, you know what I mean, that awkward phase, he was there to be able to push me further into a bigger passion that would prolong that more in the future. And so now it's like going from, being homeless and kind of feeling down on myself, feeling a little lost, growing from that to having a passion, having an outlet. That's the biggest thing. And, for me, music is my therapy. So that's like, when you're in your room alone and you're just making music, say whatever the fuck you want into that mic, put whatever you want into that beat. You can mess around, no one's judging, and you just do what you need to do. You know what I mean? I think that's the best way that everybody I've met have been able to progress within their music, is staying true to themselves. Because even if they're like, this might sound weird, I'm like, I don't give a fuck, put it out. And that was like a big thing with Juliet, I found. When I first worked with her, it's like, she never screamed in front of anybody. So I was like, my neighbors might hate it, but let's try it. And so she screamed into the microphone like 6 feet away from me. I was all scared, but it still worked out. I was like, all right, dude, now we got a new sound.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, no, she kept progressing with that. Now she has a EP out that's amazing. It's basically all screaming and it's fucking bangers, dude.
Dope.
Yeah, and so shout out Juliet, dude. And so, yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just working on your mental health, making sure that even if you're physically not in the best place, there's still time, and time is the best healer.
Mm-hmm.
Everything will get better as long as you give it patience. And things are rough in the moment, play the devil's advocate and try to put yourself in a new position mentally. I feel like it's the biggest thing for that is just habits. You know what I mean? I feel like depression, addiction. I mean, addiction is a big thing. You're addicted to a substance. Like, I'm addicted to this vape, right? That's a big thing, but it could be worse. It could be something like heroin or something like that, But putting yourself into good habits, whether that's mentally or physically, I feel like if you consistently try to think positively, eventually it's going to become a literal physical habit in your brain to think more positively.
Yep.
Looking at it from a better position.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And so I feel like, yeah, surrounding yourself by good friends, good people. And that's the biggest thing I did, I feel like, for music, is just having a outlet with other people that I could mess around with. You know what I mean? And try to work on new things and try to experiment on new sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really dope to hear this, because for you it seems like music kind of came organically to you, and you bless this county with a lot of dope music that you work with a lot of dope artists on. And so had it not been for that, we would not have a whole entire pocket of what you've done for Humboldt County,
Definitely. And it's still, thank you for that, by the way. It still amazes me, you know what I mean, to see all the people I've worked with and know the impact that I've had on the community, because I'll still see people every day when I'm in Arcata or in Humboldt County, all my friends come up to me who I haven't seen in a while from like high school or whatever it is, and they're like, yo man, I'm loving your music and all that stuff, and that's like mind-blowing to me. You know what I mean? Even though they're my friends, it's still like, dude, like, I make music, like, what? It's still a trip to me, just being able to have that support from your community. And so I thank you for bringing me up on this podcast, for even providing more support.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to have you. I'm thankful to get you on this trip out and before you leave,
Thank you. Yeah. Dude, to more journeys.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
more
it.
growth.
Hey, I know we already gave a shout out to ilyJxsh, but man, it sounds like he was really integral in a lot of For the Masses and your growth in the community,
Yeah. He was the biggest influence on me, I'd say, at the very beginning of this and even now. You know what I mean? He got me into a better mind space. When him and I just that's how For the Masses began. We took mushrooms, made a song, and we're like, dude, let's make a group. And he was just there for me as a brother. And so that was really amazing to see and have in my life. And so, dude, whenever you're making music, make music with people. It makes it a lot better.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Hey, one other thing too, I want to say, I'm not just like trying to like put a focus on this specific aspect, but I want to make sure folks heard that Josh right now was saying that at one point you were homeless at one point.
Yes.
And just fought through that adversity, like you said, came up and just made do with what you had and made it to this level of like influence in the community. So don't think that you can't do it yourself, folks. Like, you guys got to have you guys have inspiring people in the community like Josh, like ilyJxsh, and what they've done with For the Masses, the Cemetery Boys, City Hippie, all these bands that have really popped in Humboldt County. You know what I mean? And so to look up to when you guys are trying to do the same thing, you know what I'm saying? And get your music and your creative energy out there, you know.
Believe in yourself, invest in yourself. It's the biggest thing. That's all you can do. Well, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Josh. I really appreciate you. The next time you got your back out here, man, please do come through. You're absolutely welcome. And,
hey, you already know.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get an update from you at some point on how things are going down in Ventura County.
Definitely.
And I'm wishing you the best down there, man. I know it's going to grow and really blow up for you once you hit the masses down there.
Love, dude. Thank you.
Absolutely.
This is iloveyoujxsh, and you're watching Hip Hop Humboldt podcast.
That's it. Real quick, where can they find you on the socials?
Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Instagram. It's ilyJxsh. Instagram is iloveyoujxsh.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, brother. Till next time.
Till next time.